Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Make sure you're hitting the like button and the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Follow it, rate it, be a friend, tell a friend. The podcast can be found anywhere you listen to your podcast. So on iTunes and everything, please leave a review and rate it and all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. We are going to continue on with our summer football topics and organization and what goes into summer football in high school. College a little bit, but college a little more different, is a different animal than high school. So we're going to continue on. The last time we talked, we talked about organization. How do you schedule your calendar? The things that you have to think about when you're putting the calendar together. So we're going to continue on, and one of the things is you've sat down, you've talked about the calendar, how you're going to organize strength and conditioning is going to be the month of June. Is going to be split up, your camps and everything else. Once you have that figured out, then the next point is okay, what changes, tweaks, or anything are you going to make to we're going to talk about offense, your offense. So what's one of the things you're going to do? One of the things you have to do is you have to, going into the summer, you have to know what coach is doing what. Do they have the same roles as they did last year? Did you make tweaks? Did you have coaches leave? Did you have to assign and hire new guys? We are in the situation right now where we had coaches that, had to leave the school or anything else. And, we had to bring new people on. So they have to be assigned. So then how do you organize your offense and be able to teach the coaches and make sure they're on the same page? Because this all ties in together. So when you're talking from an offensive perspective, depends on the type of team you have. If you're an established team and an established coaching staff, there's probably not too many tweaks you make on offense, if any changes at all. You're a spread air raid team that's going to throw the ball around, and yeah, you might come in and say, we might adjust these routes or everything else, but really, if you've been together for a while and that's who you are, you don't change it. I know plenty of high schools around that run the same offenses year in year out. They make tweaks. They might run the ball a little more than when than passing it, but that's about it. So one of the organization things you have to do going in, and this has to be done before the summer, is who's your staff. So if you're a new staff together, figure out how to work together. How do you get them on board and figure out what kind of offense you're going to be? So, and when you're going in, okay, you sit down with your coaches and figure out what kind of offense you're going to be. And then you make sure you sit down with the positional coaches. So in the summer, you have to figure out a practice plan. How are you going to organize your offense? Are you going to do Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays? If you do 5 days a week, is going to be offense. Is it all offense? Is it half the offense? How do you go about that? And another thing in summer ball that you can do is you got to figure out how to install. And that's a big thing with some coaches. Coaches want to put in everything, and I'm guilty of that as anybody. There are times where I'll put in things very quickly because I feel like we need to combat against another team. Then there's coaches and teams that don't put everything in. They do it piece by piece. And it's also a time where you have to organize and say, we are going to, try this in the summer and then see if it's going to work or not. And what I mean by that is we're going to try these different steps on blocking and see if that works. We're going to try these routes with these plays and see if they work. This is the time to do it. You don't want to wait until September and decide that you're going to change this. So going into the summer, you have to choose and what you think your identity is going to be. In high school, unless you're Texas or places like that, you can come in with a plan and it get changed. And what I mean by that is you can't recruit players. You don't really know who you're getting. You get an idea through the off season, but in the off season, they're playing basketball, they're doing baseball, they're doing volleyball, they're doing these other sports. So they may not always be in the weight room. They may not always be at any type of football meetings. Illinois does not have spring ball. So we really, really don't know who is possibly going to be on the team. So you could come in and say, we're going to be, and do this in offense. And either a player doesn't come back, a player, you get extra players and realize, okay, this is what we can do. So you have to go in with a basic plan, a general plan on offense. So when you go in, you have to make sure what you're going to be your bread and butter run play. So when you're organizing, make sure you have your run play set. Okay, this is when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. This is what we're calling. You have that. Then you have a secondary run play, maybe a third run play, and that's really all you want to start installing in the summer. Make sure on those run plays that the running backs drills match up to what that's going to be for the run game. Make sure quarterbacks are meshing with the running backs. These are general things that go into the season, but in the summer, you have to make sure it's organized. And in the summer, you have to make sure that you're going piece by piece. You have to make sure that it's stuff that's going to be remembered. It essentially what you do in the summer might become your everyday drills when the season starts. But in the summer, these are the main drills. You're going to do mesh points. You're going to do load stepping with offensive linemen. You're going to do blocks. You might hit the sled. You might do stances a lot. Make sure this is organized in the summer. You have practice plans sent out to the coaches. Wide receivers are going to work on basic routes and put them together. And then you have a general view of the end game of the offense for the players to understand. You can't come in guns a-blazing with everything. You can't come in and not know who you are. Make sure when you're talking to the players, you tell them the overview. For example, put in a run play this year that we did not run last year. And I told the players, my offensive line, putting it in, I said, this is why I want to do it. This is what I think we can be good at when we try it. I'm going to play to your guys' strengths and we're going to try it this way. And then I broke it down into pieces. This is the steps to get there. This is how we block. This is how we double team it. Then I tell them, okay, this is the big picture. And then we walk through the play at the end because we're just in helmets. We're not in shoulder pads. You have to make sure that this is all organized. You have to make sure that they understand what's going on. When you're not organized with the offense in the summer, they're not going to buy in. They're not going to believe in what you're doing. They're not going to learn anything. You have to make sure install plans. Day one, this is what you're doing. Day two, this is what you're doing. Day three, whether it's day one's a Monday and then day two for you is a Wednesday, have to make sure that those are put together. Also on offense, you have to have fun. So 7-on-7s, make it a competition. Offensive line, make a station or stations, have some fun. Make it a competition, put them in different groups. How far can we push the sled in so much time? Once you start getting pads on, you do one-on-ones and they're competitions, you do double teams. And make things fun. Now, in the season, you still want to make it fun, but you also have work to do. So, in the summer, you have to make sure that the offense is set of what you want to do. You can't go into a summer and say, we're going to be this type of team. And then in August or whenever you're done with your summer, say, okay, well, instead of being this type of team, we're not going to be this type of team. And you now have to change and tweak absolutely everything. And to be organized on offense, you have to allow players to move around and try different things. That's part of the very beginning of summer. So if your first week of camp is in July and a player comes up and says, I've never played this position before, I want to try it, this is the time to do it. And you might be surprised and find out that this player can play this position better than what the other position they played. You may also find out, and the player may be humbled saying, oh, there's a reason why I don't play this position. If a person's playing a tight end that shouldn't be, if a person goes over to play corner and they're not meant to be there, those type of situations do occur, and it humbles those players. Another thing in the summer is to make sure that the freshmen are on board and the freshman coaches are on board with you offensively. So it's a good idea to bring them together and you practice with the freshmen. Now you're doing drills and you got your older guys. They can have their own little station, but it's right next to you. So you as the varsity position coach or a coordinator can keep an eye on what's going on to make sure that they are doing exactly what you're doing, because a program does not do well if the lower levels are not on the same page as the upper levels. So if they decide to do different terminology, they decide to do different footwork, they decide to do everything, it's a problem. You also have to be flexible on offense. If you come in and some of your steps aren't working and you're going through the summer, the old school mentality would be, well, we just have to practice it harder and we have to do it more. There's some truth to that, but at the same time, we've evolved, we've adapted, and we have to sit there and go, maybe why isn't it working? Not to get rid of your general overview of it, your theory behind doing things. An example, routes. There are certain ways. to get off of guys and how to run your routes. I've seen where when you're running around and you're a press coverage, just break to where you're running the route. So if you're running a corner route and you're being pressed, well, the corner route, if you're on the right side of the line, is going to the right. So why not aim for that shoulder and get around to get him on your back and run the corner? If you're running a post and the guy is pressed up on you and you're running a post and the post is supposed to go to the left because you're on the right side, you aim that way. I've seen where you run that post and you're on the, let's say now you're on the left side, the post is going into the right. Well, then they say to go around him and then get back. It just depends on the type of coach you are, type of offense, what you believe. Nothing wrong with it. Those are just little examples. But let's say you're doing it one way and you're doing it for 2 weeks and it's just not working. The kid's working really hard to get off of it, but it's just not getting open. Maybe you tweak it. Speaking from a defensive perspective, you're forcing corners or safeties to be in certain stances, and mainly corners. You're forced to be in certain stances, but they're not getting to the drops the way they need to. They're not doing this. Maybe the stance for them is uncomfortable. Nick Saban talked about that. Like, okay, well, let's get them in a comfortable position. Offensive line. I'm a big stickler on being a 3-point stance. When I was an offensive coordinator, I did 2 or 3 games where I said, okay, it got brought to the attention. Hey, let's try 2-point stances. Try 2-point stances. We did it for about 2 or 3 games, and I said, nope, no more. We're done. We're going back to my 3-point stance. And then the other schools I've been at where we did 3-point stances. And then we got here and did 3-point stances, and it got brought to my attention again to do 2-point. And, maybe I just put the tackles in 2 points. Then I just started to realize, what if a kid just really can't be in a 3-point stance? What if a kid can play better out of a 2-point stance? So now I'm at a point where in the summer, again, we're organized and we're going to do certain things. They're going to learn 3-point stances. Then as it goes on, I realize, hey, it just doesn't look right here coming out of the 3-point stance. Let's try a 2-point stance and maybe it looks better. And we try it and it works. Guess what? That player, especially if he's an offensive tackle, guards, I'd have to be convinced. But tackles, if it was better, maybe they just go in 2-point stances. These are the things you have to be organized with and things that you have to be ready for and understand in the summer. This is when you do that. Not saying tonight you can't make tweaks during the regular season, but these are the times to do this stuff and figure it out now. On offense, this is the time to put in a formation and see what you like about it. This is the time to maybe try a trick play and see if it works and whether you're going to make time for it. And this is the time to coach up coaches that are new on your staff to get them on board. So in the summer, you have to understand and how to break the offense down. And I'm speaking from terms of rebuilding a program and, new coaches and new system, because that's what I've been a part of. Could be my 3rd year at the school, which is the longest I've been at a school since, in the mid 2010s. I've been at one school for a year, another school for a year for football. Now this will be my 3rd season. So it's a little different, but you have to be able to make some tweaks. You have to be able to do those things. You have to understand that things are not going to get done 100%, but you also have that intensity of a regular season, especially as you start to get to the end of your camp, especially for Illinois. Illinois, you get about 20, 25 contact days. So for us, if we're going all of July, we're going to use all these contact days. Then we have a dead week period of 7 or 10 days, I believe. Then you roll right back into your season. So as you get to the end of the camp, you have to be pushing and having that same practice tempo. And especially as a head coach, all this stuff has to be organized. Everything has to be organized. And I'm speaking from offensive terms. Defensive terms in the summer is exactly the same thing as offense. Defensively is when you have to come in and decide what type of defensive team you're going to be as well. Then you also have to sit there and say, okay, what was one of our weak points? And on defense, so on offense, everybody has to block, but they block differently. Defense, they have to tackle, but you have to learn to tackle the same. Now, there's different aiming points and everything. Defensive linemen, not 110% all the time are they going to make an open field tackle. They're doing shoelace tackles. They're doing, pile on tackles. But every single person on defense has to learn how to tackle. Everybody on offense has to block, but their blocking is just a hair different. The way O-line blocks is different. The way the wide receivers, they can get their hands on, shoulders on, but their aiming points, the way they get there is different. They have to catch the ball. They have to throw the ball. Defense, they all have to tackle. They really have to use their hands. Offense can get away with shoulders and everything. Defense, they come in with a shoulder. They're taking themselves out of the play. Their heads aren't up. They're not using their hands. So you have to organize that on defense as well. And then you come in and say, this is who we are. This is what we're going to be. We're going to get good at this coverage. We're going to get good at these type of blitzes. We're going to get good at lining up like this. And again, it's still also time for you to try different things. Maybe we lined up different. Maybe we got formation them on defense. Maybe we, if we're a cover 3 team, we're going to try cover 2 and do this and do that. And again, trying different players if they want to try it. They're linebacker, they want to try defensive end, and it just doesn't work out, or vice versa, anything like that. You have to try it. Maybe they want to try offense, doesn't work, to come back to defense. Those are the type of things you have to do. And in defense, you have to spend a lot of time breaking down formations as well. On offense, you got to learn your formations, especially if you're a young team, how to line up, spacing on the field, was to understand. And then in turn on defense, you really are breaking down and organizing for those younger players or new players and new coaches, how they line up. This is this formation. This is this formation. This is how we line up here. This is what you're reading. This is what you call number 2 receiver. This is what you call number 1 receiver. They may not know how to number them. Do you know the A gap? Do you know the one technique? Especially when you got freshmen come up to sophomores and you're on a team that has to play sophomores. So going into the summer, these are the type of things that you need to look at, especially, when you're on defense. And so make sure that you guys are organized with that. And I understand if people listen to it this far, this just sounds like a regular season practice. Yes, but by then you should already know it. So summer, if you're an established team, you're an older team, they understand it, you can hit the ground running. When you're putting in new stuff, when you've got a new staff, you have to, if you had a staff that was the same as freshmen, sophomores, or whatever, and varsity for 3 years straight, and you're running the same thing for 3 years straight, your summer is faster. It could just boom, 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 boom. When you feel like you have to make a change, what you're running on offense and defense, when you get new coaches, maybe you may not have that middle level. So you got to bring those sophomores up to varsity, and it moves a lot quicker. You're doing a lot of extra things. You have to be way more organized on your summer coming in on defense and offense. Then figure out the practice schedule. And this is where another thing in the summer you can play around with. If you're a team that cannot 2-platoon, if you 2-platoon, it's easy. It's a college practice, even in the summer. Offense does their thing. Defense does their thing. But if you're a team that's, these guys are going to have to play both ways. So how do you organize your practice schedule? This is the time to play around with that and see which one is going to work. Because everything you're doing in the summer, especially at the very beginning, whenever your camp starts, it's about a trial. This is the trial that you're going to try. Then you figure it out by the end of the summer. And then going into August, you should figure out what you're going to do. So what I mean by practice plans is one day going to be all offense, next day going to be all defense, and then just keep rotating it. So if you go 4 days a week, Monday's offense, Wednesday's offense, Tuesday defense, Thursday defense, and then the next day or next week, okay, Monday's going to be defense now. You switch it up. Those are things to think about. Do you try half the practice as offense, half as defense, and the next day you start off with defense? Do you, I'm talking about full-on offense and defense. Do you do where, okay, we start on defense, go all the way through, and then the last 15 minutes, offense can do individual? You could do things like that. Does offense do a walkthrough to give a little preview of what the next day is going to be? Those are just trial and errors. And trying those different things, moving different pieces around, figuring out who you are, getting other coaches involved. So, if I've been this run game coordinator O-line for 3 years, maybe I look to the other coach, that's doing O-line and D-line and everything and say, okay, these are the drills. You're going to run practice. I'm going to stand back and watch it and really break things down to where I'm not full on go. Those are things to try to give other coaches more responsibility. They feel way more involved. They're not just watching you do it and just being like, okay, they do all the work. Let them do it. Build them up. It's, and more talking about it later of building that culture up with offense and defense, building that culture up with the coaches. But that's what goes on with offense and defense when you're organizing in the summer. Defense trying different plays that you may never have tried before, see what it looks like. This is the time. When you get into the regular season, you don't got time. You're game planning. You have to be perfect and understand what you're going to do on that game plan. And again, see where coaches fit. You have they're established. They're coming in. They have that role and responsibility, and they're going to try harder. They're going to coach harder. They have some. They feel empowered, and those are the type of things that you have to do when you're organizing a summer. Um, that wraps up this part. Again, we're just literally breaking it down, literally piece by piece. So this was about organizing your summer with your offense and your defense. This is a part of the simple offense, simple everything. This is the summer stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. Hopefully summer football is going well for everybody. Please hit the like button, subscribe button, all that good stuff. Check out the affiliates in the description below. Leave a comment in the comment section. Football coaches, you want to be on the podcast, shoot me a message. We'll set it up before we all start getting busy rolling on in August. Want to be on the podcast, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. This has been another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Mm-hmm.